Hey, it worked.
There's the main man now.
All right, lads. Fair play. All right. Well, listen, I'm just going to get straight into it. So, probably a bit of a weirder one for you guys because you are now being interviewed and you're probably well used to doing the exact opposite. So, it'll be an interesting conversation in that way. I want to just start off by asking, how did you guys meet and how did you guys decide to work together? Because I have a partnership with another company, Knut from Punk, and it's always an interesting story to see how like two things come together and how they can make a new one. So
Let you take this, Steve.
Yeah, so I guess it's a family bond. So myself and Keith were first cousins. Balbriggan, North County Dublin. Grew up obviously close together, living in the same estate. So we've always had that close bond through family, school, football, and the likes. And then coming out the back end of school, then we both had a drive to get into the trades. I'm not too sure what sort of led me towards electrical, apart from my father just being a bit technical at home. He was a technician, so I sort of seen him doing his bits and bobs around the house in regards to electrical stuff. So that drove me into an apprenticeship. I know Keith then followed in the same suit as well down the apprenticeship route, and we
Yeah.
worked separately but stayed in touch with each other over the years with what he was doing and what I was doing. It was quite different, but within the same field. So conversations were had throughout the years where, you'd have links in with each other to see how he was getting on in the route of, going self-employed, or I went down a completely different route of staying as an employee, but with a maintenance company. So the likes
mm.
of our situations, it's great to sort of bounce off each other and see how the industry is in two different sectors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? Yeah. Sorry, continue there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, just to add where Stephen's dad was.
Sorry, the sound has just gone on my end. Are you guys got sound there? Can you hear?
Can you hear
Yeah.
me, Brian?
There we go. Yeah, yeah. Just click back in there. Sorry, the
I
signal has gone
thought
in and out here. Um,
I couldn't hear Keith there at all when he was talking.
yeah, I couldn't hear him either. I didn't know that was my connection. Not Keith. Just as you answered your part, it literally went silent, and I was deathly afraid that was me. So I was like,
Can you
shut
hear
my
me? Can
mouth.
you?
Yeah, we can hear you now. So maybe if you just start again with that, the answer to that question. Sorry, it went silent. I thought everyone else was hearing, but I
How we got
maybe
into the
didn't.
trade? It was kind of the opposite to Stephen because Stephen's dad was more technically minded because I think he worked for Siemens and Biodiagnostics, but my dad was a welder by trade. So I think the reason I was pushed down the road of being an electrician was because my dad didn't want me to go through the hard graft of what he had gone through. So it kind of different but the same in terms of like fathers pushing us in the direction of the electrical trade. But it kind of helped us throughout the trade as well because on our apprenticeships because we were able to bounce off each other and able to help each other. So in terms of the podcast, it was kind of the reason it started off was the wants to help people in the trades, I suppose.
Yeah, that's my next question. Actually, is like the, how did you've got the two different backgrounds. You've got one the self-employed, the other the employed, the electricians. How do you guys come together? Like, what made the idea to come out and do the podcast? And obviously, there's probably an open in the market for that, but it's still a ballsy thing to kind of decide to do and then go and do it. Like,
Yeah, like I know from social media, I had a bit more time on my hands compared to Keith because Keith had sort of gone, head first into self-employment. So with me working in as an employee, I had a bit more time to see what was happening over in the UK, and there was a massive sort of explosion within the trades in the UK in regards to what we would call trade influencers. So you'd have like electricians and plumbers and, from all different backgrounds, all posting up their work, which was, I think, new for anybody because, from influencers, we'd see the likes of my wife or, my wife's friends and stuff, they'd be all watching, like the beauty influencers online and they'd be watching all the TikToks of how-to videos in regards to makeup or, get ready with me and getting dressed and stuff like that. And I was thinking, there's just something missing within the Irish market right now in regards to the trade industry that is just not being utilised to try and not just promote the trades, but the whole conversation around it at the time coming into the end of 2023 was the wait times on apprenticeships. And there was a bit of scaremongering as well about like how long it takes to start your apprenticeship and finish your apprenticeship. And with the influx of AI coming on and people being afraid of losing their jobs. And I done a stint out in Kildare in a semiconductor facility out there that was constantly, doing rotations of people losing their jobs with manual and maintenance labor. I was thinking this is the time now to get a bit of promotion going for the trade industry. And what better way to do it than, you sit down during your lunch hour, you sit down or you even stand at the trade counter in your wholesalers, and next minute you look and it's 40 minutes have passed, and you could be talking to, a colleague or, a sales rep about what's happening within the industry, and you're thinking, geez, that's a podcast in itself, and that's a promotion within itself, but it's not being produced or being given out to the people that need to hear it. And by, us sitting down and having a bit of conversation, which is, most of the time it's layman's terms conversations. Nobody's sitting down and talking about the ins and outs and, the scientific aspect of the industry. It's the nitty gritty, the day to day. And I think that's what people relate to more with it,
It's like
I
every day
think
when we
that's
go
how
on
it
site.
initially started as well for us, Stephen. In fairness, it was a phone call on a Friday afternoon, and I think I was in the middle of a podcast doing a fuse board. You know, only started out on my own, trying to self help myself with other podcasters in the UK, and Stephen rang me and just said, we were talking as we usually do on a Friday, and it was the end of the conversation was, will we set up our own podcast and see where it goes, type of thing. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll be all for it. Sure, that's all I do. Even when I'm washing the car at home, cleaning the garden, it's listening to self help podcasts. Now, for me, it will be about business and starting your own company, listening to, tricks of the trade basically. So we said we try and combine what the both of us were kind of looking to achieve, I suppose, and that's kind of the angle we took from the start.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I have to say, for people that maybe aren't on sites, the crack you have on sites as well, though, like between trades and everything is like some of the most funniest conversations I've ever had in my life have been on site, because
Yeah.
you have the sparks that come in, then you have the plumbers, and everyone has a different story or different angle, and they're at the different stages of the build, so it's just interesting. So yeah, I completely
Mhm.
agree. Like, when you're sitting there on the sites and like that, I think that's probably what similar to your podcast is like, I don't know what the ins and outs of Sparks. I don't know what they do. I know what you do, but I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So therefore, just hearing these different stories that like I would have with the different electricians on sites, you get a great insight. There's just great crack on site with those things, and
And your
it
van,
always took a look.
your van is therapy. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like if you're sitting there, if it's Keith sitting with one of his apprentices, or if it's me jumping in a van on a Monday morning and making a 2.5 hour drive to Galway for a job, it's therapy. You know what I mean? So, by listening to podcasts and hearing somebody who sounds like you, who works in the same type of role that you work in, come into a podcast studio like myself and Keith do and open up, and not just on the trades, it's opening up about, mental health and,
Yeah.
different aspects of it, if it's albeit, eating disorders is what we've touched on. We've touched on people, who have dealt with, loss, even suicide prevention and everything like that. But for the likes of me and Keith, like to be able to open up our platform and listen to people, be able to release not just a bit of tension that they might be carrying with them, but, you know, passing on a message to other people within the trades that feel like that they don't have an outlet to be able to not just share the message, but listen to a message and relate to it. It's like a custodian thing for us to be able to hold on the podcast and provide to people, and we're very proud to be able to do that.
And Brian, I think you said it perfectly there as well. The same goes for me and Stephen. Like you said, you might jump on the podcast and you're listening to us, and obviously you don't know what we do or ins and outs of our day. But for me and Stephen, that was one of the main points as well for us, was that we were going to be getting on other trades that we didn't quite know what their day to day was as well. So
Mm.
that was actually a really big part of it as well. You just brought it up there, actually.
And the signal went again there.
Plus, with the seasons going on further, we kind of branched away from the trades a little bit as well, as in we had our two segments where we were doing a bit of lifestyle as well. So we've had footballers, professional boxers,
Oh,
professional golf players, and stuff like that as well. So it was just to broaden it a bit to keep it interesting for us as well.
well, I think it's broadening it, but then I also agree that it's like it also shows a link as well, though. You know what I mean? That there's a lot of people feel like, oh, no one knows what I'm going through, or you know, no one. And
Yeah.
just seeing a trainee to a professional football to a professional boxer, you'll see that there's commonality throughout everybody. You know what I mean? And everyone
100%.
goes through similar dips and things, and you're not like. I think that's a great thing about what your podcast does. Is it means you're not on like it kind of levels the playing field. Do you know what I mean? Between different people in different areas, and you might think that person has it better than you, or that, you know, and it's like you kind of see those things and you get the touch bases. And on that with your podcast, like as you pointed out, that you've had a good mix of guests. Is there a conversation that's shifted how you think about podcasting so far? Is there like one or two, or like is there anything simple that has to happen on your podcast that made you go, oh, actually, that's a different way of doing this or looking at this?
Yeah, I guess within the 1 week, we had a guest in, Sean Blake, and then we had another fella, Connor Nolan, in,
Yeah.
and both of them were through trying to highlight eating disorders within males, because a lot of it was, you know, and having a daughter at home as well, like it's something that's always spoke about, like between my wife and my daughter and stuff, you know, like how they look and what they're eating and stuff like that. And that sort of image on a male perspective, and the mental health aspect that can sort of protrude through, you know, I think from school level right up until adulthood, was an eye opener for me, and it's something that sort of myself and Keith, like after having the conversations with them, you know, you're able to step back and maybe take a look at, you know, certain aspects of your day to day that might be sort of overlooked and
Mm.
not spoke about. And I know that when I walked away from it and I came home and I was doing the editing at home and listening back to some of the conversations, it you carry a bit of heaviness away with you after those type of conversations, and you've nearly taken a bit of their weight with you, and then you're listening to it and you're editing it, and then you sort of carry it for the next week or so, and it sort of dictates then decisions you make in your life. And I couldn't sort of, like, that would be 1 week where I could pinpoint it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
pinpoint it down to them as specific guests, but it was something where I took a bit of weight away from the conversations, and I started to realize that, you know, like I mentioned before, being a custodian of somebody's, you know,
Sorry.
life and their experiences, and being able to sort of portray that for people to hear, is something that I think, you know, it sort of does take a mental capability on you to have the likes of Keith, like, and to have the like of our followers on Instagram, reaching out then after it then, and then, you know, saying that, you know, thanks very much for, you know, passing that message on, or it was a heavy episode, or, you know, well done for, you know, sort of tackling it or navigating it that way, sort of, you know, gives me that bit of, I don't know if it's recognition or self-recognition, but it's definitely some sort of, something to be proud of. I think that you can be trusted with the guest, and to, you know, you have other people reaching out then from listening to those episodes saying, you guys are the platform that I want to utilize now to share my story, because you have that sort of, openness and willingness to not just listen, but to learn from it,
Yeah, so it's amazing. Like it's interesting from like an outsider's perspective and looking in. It's one. There's not many male podcasts in Ireland that deal with this at all. Full stop. Talking about like these kind of problems. There's not many. The last thing you expected is from two trades ons. You know what I mean? Like to be fairly honest, like you expect us to kind of have the stereotypical kind of male point of view, which is grin and bear it, put your head down, get through it. So it's fascinating, and it's a compelling listen when you have that aspect to it. It's I would say a lot of men are probably tuning in not knowing that that's what they're going to get, you know what I mean? And then they get that, and it probably makes them turn as well, or maybe it makes them think about themselves in a better way or an easier way. It's fascinating in saying that. There's one question that I would love to ask you guys, because as you just pointed out there, you said you did the two podcasts in a week, and then you went home and you had to edit it. You guys have full-time jobs. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people don't understand how much work goes into content creation, how much work goes into podcasting, how much time what might come out as a podcast, maybe 45 minutes or an hour, that is a 2 to 3 hour setup of people coming and all that. And then the editing, as you pointed out, the editing can take depending on how the guest is, and depending on how maybe somebody says something that, can you pull that out, I need you to pull that out, and it can take hours and hours of editing. So I just, how do you juggle all that, like with your jobs, self-employed? It's I know it's a lot, so I'd love to know how you guys are handling that.
Well, I can't really say Stephen's laughing because I can't really lay claim to any of the editing myself. But what I will say is I really do appreciate what Stephen does, because as you can see from our socials, there's lots of stuff in the interviews that you might not grab straight away, and especially when I'm there and I'm coming straight from work, we get through the interview, but then when Stephen manages to grab those, really intriguing moments, it makes such a massive difference. And those 5-10 second snippets of the likes of Fergus Farrell, Richie Doyle, guys like that are prevalent on social media, and you can see the work they're doing. But then to actually strip them back and get into the bare bones of their lives and their families and stuff like that, it's really powerful. But like as I said, I don't do any of the editing. I'm just there in body on a Thursday night for 5-6 hours. But Stephen does a lot of work off the screen, so I'll let him answer the rest of that.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's been a learning sort of process for, I know the both of us. I know like I've sort of got the practical end of it, but myself and Keith, like from starting off in Keith's box room, or home office as he likes to call it as well, where he is now.
Um,
We started off audio only because we didn't have the confidence probably to go video at the start, so it was audio. And I started to learn then the little tricks of how to cut and split audio episodes, which was now seems to be so easy compared to video. But it's something that I found as I progressed with the podcasting and the editing aspect of it, that I think it was probably a calling that I probably could have went down that type of route after school, but I didn't know I could have, because I didn't know that that type of industry would have been available to me. But the love that I have for the editing aspect of it and the production aspect of it, and linking it into social media and getting the clips out there and trying to, like Keith mentioned, sort of highlight that 60 seconds to try and grab somebody's attention is like it's like a bit of dopamine for me. And I've only just realised, and myself and the wife have had the conversation. So like over the last couple of months, like we've had like our own children assessed and diagnosed for ADHD, and they've come back with positive on that aspect of it. And it's sort of then when I was doing that, assessment with the children, and I was answering all the questions on their behalf. I was saying, oh shit, that's me, that's me, you know. So I think there's a little bit of the tism that's needed in order to be able to throw yourself as deep into it as I have and be able to get out of it what I get out of it, you know.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's it's real interesting to hear that. The next thing I want to get on to, you guys, is I want to talk about the trade awards. I want to know what it is, where it's about, and really get into that just for but yeah, we nailed that question down. So, what is it? Tell us all about
Well,
it.
well, we thought about it for a long time, and over the last 2 years, Stephen, we've been like privileged to be invited over to the UK to a couple of trade events and a well-known trade show that's on YouTube over there. And what we noticed when we were over there was that the recognition that the different trades have for each other, and I suppose the industry has for it was like it was really prevalent to to see when we were over there. And all we ever said when we came back from the UK or anything that we've done with people in the UK is that we've got nothing like that here. Like there's people are very tight-lipped here. No one wants to heap a bit of praise. Nobody wants to take a bit of praise. So while we had our time off, Stephen, obviously, congratulations, had a baby there recently. So we took a couple of weeks off,
Big
and
bag.
you're tired actually, yeah. But while we had the couple of weeks off, we usually only take about 4 weeks, but I think we've had 6 this time around. We said we'd like to, dip our toe in that and just go all in on it. So, and again, Stephen has done most of the groundwork on it, but whatever Stephen needs to do, I'll be there with him.
Yeah, no, lucky. I think it's like what you said there. It's taking direction from maybe something. I think we're always a few years behind the UK in certain aspects of things, and having the opportunity to get over there and get a bit of an insight into how they're doing things over there. So you've got like the on the job tools over there. So they do an award ceremony over there. Like what Keith mentioned, we were invited over to eFix Live, and there's a Sparketing Live, and there's all different platforms that, champion the trades. And myself and Keith are electricians, but we've opened ourselves up to everybody. So we're inviting to all different aspects of the trades through, different types of crafts. If it's tiling, we've said even to Keith there, like plumbers and electricians are like enemies of each other on social media. Like we're always taking the piss out of each other, but we want to, you know, like we mentioned with the name of the podcast, strip it back. And
Yeah.
with that, I think it's a matter of trying to get everybody that's a part of our community and our platform to come together at the end of the year and, like Keith mentioned there, celebrate each other. So the platform or the way that we're doing it is, and through the link in our bio that's on our Instagram page, any, trade related person or family of a trade related member could go onto that link if they've had work done in their house or if they've seen work that people are doing on social media, and they can nominate a a person within a category now, and it's been open for the last month. So, like, you've got electrician, you've got plumber, you've got HVAC, you've got carpenter and fitter, and then there's craftsperson, apprentice, right down to contractor and even local wholesaler. Now, we've gone with 10 awards just on the basis of that we didn't realize or we didn't know how quick or how well it would be received after the announcement. So we didn't want to sort of bite off too much that we couldn't chew within a short period of time, but we wanted to get it out before the end of this year. So the main thing was we hit the main points, the main trades, open up a craftsperson opportunity. And to be honest with you, seeing the reaction coming in, seeing the nominations flowing in, and seeing the want for the awards has sort of humbled myself and Keith in a way that has really sort of opened our eyes up to what it potentially could be going forward beyond 2025. So what we're hoping for is to get sponsors like Design Source. We've had Robus, Fusebox, LED Group. We've had Richard Doyle, Bespoke,
Snickers.
Workshops, Snickers, Huggafors Group, Solid Workwear, Skolmore Group. I hope I'm not missing anybody else here. Keith Hager, Ireland. So like these are big names that have jumped on board and not just backed myself and Keith, but they've backed the podcast, they've backed the award
Trades.
ceremony and the trades and the industry. And I think it's amazing. And we just want to put a massive thank you out to everybody who has, just said yes to us on social media. And like, at the end of the day, people don't have to do this. They don't have to, try and, put somebody else's platform up on a pedestal or to allow them to try and, reap any reward from it. But at the end of the day, like what Keith mentioned there, it's not something that we're going to gain from it. It's something that the trade industry in a whole is going to sort of benefit from, and hopefully and potentially, it can eventually become an in-person event then in years to come. Hopefully next year, if possible, if we get a bit more backing behind it.
I think it's absolutely needed, lads. There's so much respect that is needed to be brought to the trades that is not there currently, and I think what you're doing is definitely bringing everybody into that understanding that it's like this is legitimately a highly skilled job what people are
Yeah.
doing, and the somewhat of the normal public kind of don't understand what gets involved, and I think it's a great idea. I think the idea of having a trade awards is absolutely like I've been a part of design awards, but I've never gotten anything for making or fitting or installing. You know what I mean? Like, which
Yeah.
is in a lot of parts is equally, if not harder at times than
Yeah.
other parts of it. It's a different thing altogether. Equally respected. So I think, in fairness, lads, I couldn't agree with just more. How does somebody vote for somebody that they want? Like, how does we know you can get nominated, but how does somebody vote for someone that they've, that they maybe see on your website or see on that? Like,
Yeah, so the platform is obviously opened up through the bio page, and what it will do is there is a free to enter in each category. So you can nominate into the category, and then obviously then after the 29th of October now, myself and Keith are going to tally up all the nominations in each category. And then out of those tallies, which is looking fairly hefty in each category at the minute, I think what we're going to do is open the voting back up for a week after the tally, and there will be a short list of, I'd say probably three, Keith, depending on the amount. Because a lot of the numbers are close in a lot of categories, so it'll be hard
Some might
to.
have four, yeah.
Yeah, some might have four, but I'd hate for somebody to miss out being shortlisted based on one or two nominations.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3 to 4 shortlisted in each category, and the platform will then open back up then as a multiple choice, and our followers, our friends and families of who shortlisted them will have the opportunity then through the link in our bio to choose then who they want as their winner, and then the next. I think the runner-up award will be based on then obviously the next highest vote then after in each category.
Yeah.
amazing. The next question, guys, and
Good
the last question
opportunity.
is just on the awards that you're saying next year you're hoping to have it in person. So if somebody wants to, is it just go listen to the podcast, or will it be in a live event or like an online live event, or what? How do people see the awards, and or what's your kind of thinking behind that?
Yeah, so like that now, it's our first year that we're doing it. So the way we're going to do it this year is we have a scheduled live YouTube award ceremony on December 11th at 8 p.m. So the link to join the waiting room for that event is in our bio as well. So anybody who's interested, obviously the podcast season 8 now is going to be starting back. We're recording this Thursday, and the first episode will come out on the following Monday, which I believe is the 3rd. So obviously there's going to be updates across the next couple of weeks through the podcast based on how the event is taking place and how it's all unfolding. But for anybody who follows our socials, which is at Inside the Strip Back Podcast on Instagram, it's the Strip Back Podcast on TikTok, and we're on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we also drop a few videos out onto YouTube. So I think it's very hard to miss anything that I'm sort of sharing across all social media. So I think if you do
people
miss
miss it, it's their fault.
Exactly.
Listen, lads, it's been great chatting to you. I think what you're doing is class. So keep up the work. If there's anything else you guys want to shout out or maybe get attention to, I'd say do it now. But otherwise, we can leave it there.
No, big shout out to Design Source Ireland for their support and their help on this. And like we said, we just want to, put the message out there for the industry as a whole, just to come together. So by supporting this and supporting us, it's only going to help everybody grow. So we want to thank you for allowing us to do that. Cheers, Brian.
Cheers, lads. Listen, thanks very much. I look forward to the 11th of December, 8 o'clock live event. Cheers, guys. Talk to you soon.
Very good.
See you later, Brian. Good luck.